you meet someone and you go, oh, my baby's IVF. To every single baby is an IVF baby. Like, I don't know people who have sex to have babies. Honestly, I don't. I actually don't know any couples who do. If you're one of them, good on you.
Good on you.
Because that's how it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Welcome back to No Place Like Home. I'm Claire and I'm here with Larissa today.
Hello.
And we are chatting with Joanna.
Hi, Joe.
Hi, ladies. So good to be back here.
Yeah. You have stayed with us at home, and we had the pleasure of looking after you and little Kiara.
I miss this place so much.
Oh,
We miss you too.
I know we do.
It was such a lovely week.
I know, it was beautiful. Lots of amazing chats, which is why we wanted to get you on the podcast, because you have quite I want to say unique story, but maybe it's actually not. And you can probably give us a bit more context to that, because I think your story and what you sort of went through in order to have your children is maybe more common than
In certain parts of
Yeah.
the community, yes, it's common, but to maybe the general population, not so much known. Not that it's not common, just not known.
Not talked about.
Yeah.
So tell us a bit about yourself, family, background.
Where do I begin?
Yeah.
Well, I am, or maybe was, a physiotherapist before I embarked on the full-time journey of trying to conceive, pregnancy and motherhood. I feel like my physiotherapy life was just a chapter I did achieve, was so happy with, and now so happy to close.
Okay.
But I would like to return to in some capacity, just not sure how. But right now, I'm happy to say I'm a full-time mum.
Gorgeous.
Sharing my journey on Instagram, which came really unexpectedly, but a very nice surprise.
Yeah.
A very nice surprise. I've grown such a nice community where I can share what I'm going through now.
So for people who don't follow you and would like to follow you, your Instagram handle is IVF
Mama Tribe. It was IVF Tribe, but I think I've passed that now. So I've added the mama in there just to make it a bit more, when people are searching, they understand they're not following an account where it's still,
You're on
in
that
the IVF
journey.
trenches. Yeah, I'm a mum now. So I've sort of, changed it to IVF Mama Tribe.
Did you always want to be a mum?
Always.
Yeah.
Always.
From like a young age?
Yeah. I always knew I wanted to be a mum, just, on the different, I guess, trajectory to getting there. Yeah.
I mean, obviously you never start that chapter of your life thinking this is going to be my journey. This is what it might look like.
No,
this is what
everyone thinks, I'm going to meet the man of my dreams. I'm going to be married for 2 years and I'm going to have I'm going to have the 2.5 kids and the white picket fence and my career and this, and I'm going to travel the world and do all
Everything's
that.
going to just fall into place seamlessly. Yeah.
And clearly that wasn't mine. Yeah, mine or Nick's journey to getting our babies.
So let's get into it, shall we? So maybe let's start from like preconception. So sort of when you were like, okay,
We want to have babies.
I'm not even quite sure where to start.
Yeah.
I think I got the idea into my head that my fertility was maybe, I don't know what the word is, not as juicy. I don't know what the word is.
Right.
Ripe is a good word. I froze my eggs, I think when I was 37, 38.
Right.
And I want to say that the specialist maybe stuffed up my egg collection because she yielded one egg. And for those who have done egg freezing, that is a terrible result, because what can you do with one egg, one frozen egg? It probably wouldn't defrost and, get fertilized.
Right.
So from that, I just thought, oh my God, I got one egg. But the egg collection, I actually showed that I had plenty of follicles there. So I don't know whether she missed the boat in terms of the egg collection timing. And at that stage, I was a bit devastated and I didn't have another $12,000 to fork out, for another.
Yeah, I suppose this is the wild side
this
of
is a
it,
while,
right?
yeah.
Like
and this is
the
a while back where it
cost.
wasn't Medicare funded as well. So it was $12,000
Out of pocket.
Out of pocket,
Yeah.
straight up, no rebates.
My God.
Yeah, so that kind of left me questioning whether my fertility is,
Yeah.
not
Compromised in some way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was 37, 38. So when I decided that it was time, really, I needed to give this a go. I was already 42, turning 43. So
Wow.
I just decided I'm just going to make the fertility appointment with a specialist. So we didn't try naturally. I just made the appointment. I just thought if this is going to be hard, I'm just going to have the appointment there. If it happens before, that's great.
So had you made that assessment based on any prior medical appointments, or had anyone said anything to you, or you were just
I just concluded that,
okay,
if she yielded one egg, that
then
was
it
pretty
was
bad.
going to be, okay.
I probably didn't talk to anyone about it. I just,
yeah, okay.
probably didn't tell that many people I did the egg collection except my parents, really. So
Right.
Had you had a period of trying to conceive naturally prior?
No. That was just an egg freezing because Nick wasn't ready to commit into a relationship and having babies. So I just thought that was a good way of some
Preserving
security.
Yeah.
security,
Yeah.
as many ladies do now. So going from that, I just had it in my head it's not going to be easy getting pregnant. So I wasn't really even using contraception, to be honest. I just made the appointment with a specialist. Just, I think it took 3 months to get the appointment. So I'm like, well, if it happens before then, great. If it doesn't, we'll have the appointment and go from there, because I was already turning 43 that year.
Yeah, right.
So, that's considered geriatric, past my prime.
Birthing. Yeah.
In the birth well.
Well, you met with a lot of resistance because of your age and where you were at that point, or being in that community, it was, I don't want to say okay, but it was normalized. Yeah. Or did you feel like you were at the higher end of what people would be going to the clinic for in terms of age?
I think I was on the higher end, but I didn't feel any stigma or any judgment or anything like that. No.
Right.
Yeah. Good.
And did you have a good experience with the fertility specialists?
Not my first one. I just went to, am I allowed to say the clinic?
Up to you. We can edit it out.
I went to Melbourne IVF and she just was very standard protocol in the community. There's a term called, you just get the standard protocols, and it was just kind of doing the same thing over and over again. And I pushed for investigations to be done, and she wasn't very open to doing those investigations, which I found, they were just really basic testing that I thought a specialist would just kind of
absolutely
go through and just make it.
Yeah, dot all the I's, cross all the T's.
Best chances for me to get pregnant.
Yeah.
And she was kind of reluctant. It's like, we'll just do another cycle, another transfer. I'm like, I don't have, this X amount of money to give you for you to just do the same thing over and over again. And by that stage, I was deep into Facebook community groups. It's a huge community there. And did all my research, and that led me to Dr. Lynn Burmeister, and I got an appointment with her quite quickly because I was on a wait list, and it just so happened I got in through the wait list cancellation, and then she threw everything at me.
Yeah,
she wasn't phased at my age or the situation. So she did all the testing, everything I asked for. We did all that.
And you still had your one egg.
I used it already.
You'd used it already.
So I did 4 cycles with Melbourne IVF, maybe 3 egg collections and maybe 4 or 5 transfers. That didn't work.
Wow.
Transferred the remaining embryos over to Lynn. I think there were a few that I transferred over to Lynn, and then we just did back-to-back cycles. So at that stage, I already done 4. So with Lynn, I think I started on my 5th to my 10th.
Wow.
Or 6th with her. I can't fully remember.
And how was your kind of mental, emotional health during that time?
It wasn't great, to be honest. It was I was just pumped full of hormones for pretty much a whole year. I was seeing a perinatal psychiatrist, which was great. So he really, kept me on the straight and narrow.
Yeah. Is that something you'd recommend to anyone embarking on
definitely,
that?
Yeah. Definitely, because a lot of these women I speak to over social media, they don't tell anyone. They don't even tell their family. They don't tell their parents. They don't tell their brothers or sisters. So they're
Why
really
do you think that is?
So isolating.
judgment. But then, when we fell pregnant and we had our babies, and I'm jumping forward, you meet someone and you go, oh, my baby's IVF. To every single baby is an IVF baby. Like, I don't know people who have sex to have babies. Honestly, I don't. I actually don't know any couples who do. If you're one of them, good on you.
Good on you.
Because that's how it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
But not in not in my
it's quite common.
Yeah. Very common.
And there's still
Just
such
not
a
talked about.
stigma.
Common, but just not talked about.
I don't know. Maybe it's my naivety. I just think that's wild that I think there's this like thought process that we talk about these things and we're open and we do it, but in actual fact, we don't. It's like all the stuff about postpartum as well.
Yeah,
Like
there's all these little communities of people talking about it, but even they're in isolation. Like if you're not in that closed Facebook community or whatever, then you don't know that this whole world of, millions of people likely exists.
Yeah, it's just wild. Okay, so then you had all of so you went through 4 or 5 with Lynn?
I think 5 or 6 with Lynn, and that led us into COVID and out of COVID as well. So that was isolating in itself.
Yeah,
doing all that
absolutely.
in COVID and not meeting up with anyone really to talk about it. And I've made a lot of good friends over social media due to COVID, and also meeting. She is now Charles's godmother, but I met her through Instagram. She was using Lynn, and we met at a meetup, and I also organise Melbourne IVF meetups, and we got together like walking around the tan. So I did
so lovely.
meet a few ladies, I think 5-6 years ago, that I'm still in contact with.
Oh, that's beautiful.
That we met in real life.
So you created your own community.
Essentially, which was really nice because they understood I feel like women going through it understand it better than women who haven't had the struggle or the disappointment or the heartbreak.
Yeah. How was so at that time when you were doing the transfers through COVID, obviously Nick was like, okay, I'm in, we're doing this. How was that pressure on your relationship?
It was a pressure cooker.
Yeah.
It was a pressure cooker. So seeing Sam, my psychiatrist, help, but then we also instigated this thing that became a thing on Instagram. We had a Friday night date night. Every Friday night we went to Bistro Theory down the road. And it was just funny because I used to say it all looks nice on Instagram, but like it could be an hour before our dinner, we could have the most massive fight ever. Massive, like exploding. I'm going to walk out the house. But we had to front up, get dressed, go to Bistro Theory, have a glass of wine or champagne, and then talk it over and then, move on. And things were okay. So that was like our reset that Friday night because things got so heated, just cycle after cycle. And then Nick got so frustrated that we're doing the same thing again. Like, when are we going to stop? Are we going to stop? Are we going to move to donor eggs, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a sec?
Yeah.
So it just got to, and then he was stressed with work. So many things.
Yeah.
So many things. Yeah. So that Friday night became almost a reset for us. We had to sit for like an hour and a half facing each other, talk it all out, and then
just the two of you.
So that really helped instigating that sort of stopped during COVID as well, which it was a bit sad
harder.
that they did, but then when they could reopen, it's like we're back in there.
Yeah.
So can you talk to us about how it went from the embryo transfers to donor embryos and how you got to that next kind of step?
I was open to the fact of donor eggs because even I think even trying, I was fascinated with epigenetics. I was reading a lot about it. And as we started trying through the journey and, I was not getting pregnant, I was also delving into this other community of donor eggs on the Facebook forums and reading about that and reading about the donor world. I'm just going to put it out there.
Yeah.
And I did a lot about it, and I told Nick about it, and he was kind of like, oh, what's the point of that? I'm supposed to be having a baby with you, not with, a random stranger.
Right.
So that was his
like,
take. Yeah. That was his take on it. And I was trying to explain, epigenetics, I'm carrying the child, et cetera, et cetera. So that was the start of it. So fast forward into, transfer number 13, 14, 15, egg collection number 7, 8, 9, and we're forking out so much money. Nick was like, he flipped. So he was open to donor eggs. Like, let's look at that. Then I flipped 360 and got, nope, I don't want that. I want my own egg. So I'm determined to keep going. So I did a backflip. He did a backflip.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So then I wasn't ready.
So did you continue to do all of that with Lynn? And so by the time you got to the last, how many transfers?
Probably 12, 13.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's 13 pea on a stick and not seeing, those two
Over
strong
what
lines.
period of time?
So we started 2019 and 2021. So what's Charles? Charles was born 2022. 2021, December, we fell pregnant with Lynn. She got us our baby, but that baby wasn't meant to be. So we lost him in January, and that was devastating. So that was the pivot point for us, or for me. And I, again, was still determined to do one more cycle. I was turning 45. Lynn was still open to doing one more cycle for me as closure. We spoke to my psychiatrist. He was very, very encouraging in terms of helping Nick understand my need for another cycle.
Did you see that psychiatrist together?
No. So Sam was very, I don't want this to be couples therapy. I never want to see Nick type thing, except for that one appointment after my DNC. He said, bring Nick to the appointment. I think it was almost the next day or that afternoon. It was really quick. And that appointment, I think, really helped Nick see the bigger picture for me and understand where I was at and how I was feeling. Sam basically spoke to Nick. It was not my appointment. Sam basically said to Nick, Joanna, for reasons of her own, need some sort of closure to close this chapter of her life. You can pursue donor eggs. Let her do one more cycle, whether you get a normal embryo, a genetically tested normal embryo, whether you get that or not, you can freeze that. You may come back to that, but if she's going to embark on this donor journey, she just needs to do one more cycle regardless of the result. And so Nick was like, okay. And yeah, we left that appointment, sort of in agreement as to the next steps.
Yeah.
That was 2021, January. I had to let my body sort of reset, I guess, to do another cycle. And in that time, I went back into investigating about donor, and I think I connected with a lady who used a particular clinic in Malaysia. So for me to take the next step, I also was looking for donor eggs that was my heritage. So one, Asian, but also Malaysian, Singaporean Asians. I'm Malaysian Chinese. So I was wanting donor eggs or donor Asian eggs that kind of look like me, because there's Thai Asians, Japanese Asians, Korean Asians, that really have, they don't have my features.
Yeah. Yeah.
I actually did search the world for these eggs. Unfortunately, no one had them. Or America did have them, but it was very expensive to get these Asian eggs.
And you had to do that yourself?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because there's no one facilitates that here in Australia?
No.
That's wild, isn't it?
Wow.
Yeah.
So you're looking for a needle in a haystack, basically, or online?
Online. You're researching online.
And then how how were you emotionally and mentally through that process then?
Do you know, I think I blocked it out. I can't even remember. Like, obviously not great.
Yeah.
Obviously not great, but it was just...
But you
my
still had
end
that
point
support.
was just, I want a baby.
Yeah.
So many ladies every day message me, how do you do it? How do you do it? How do you keep going? I've just had my first egg collection. It was, you know, it was negative. And I'm like, this is something also no one tells you about. Most ladies go through 3 or 4 egg collections, 4 or 5 transfers, forgot their baby. So everyone thinks, I'm going to do IVF. That's going to give me my baby, my first go. It doesn't happen that way. Great if it happens the first go, but majority, it really doesn't happen the first go. So many of the ladies are so crushed at their first transfer not working. I'm like, honey, I'm sorry to tell you, but it might take 5 or 6 transfers for you to get your baby.
And is that not something that they sort of tell you when you're going into it? Is it not explicitly like you realise you might have to do this a few times?
I really don't think it's
Yeah.
I guess they probably don't want to say that because probably scares people from the financial perspective, right? If they said like this is going to take 10 rounds, 6 rounds, and then the people just see the dollar signs racking up, right?
Yeah. So you don't
But
want
also you want to give people hope. You don't want to say, it's going to take you, take you 5 years. And you're thinking it's going to be next month I'm going to be pregnant. Yeah. So it's a fine balance, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a bit like postpartum.
Correct.
It's like, you don't
go with all the doom and gloom.
Yeah, you don't want to be doom and gloom because a lot of people do have beautiful experiences. Okay, so how do you even begin to navigate? Like, do you just Google donor eggs? Like,
I Google donor eggs and forums. So there were donor eggs in Australia.
Yeah.
Look, don't know whether this is kosher to say or not, but if anyone wants to do, donor, go down the donor track, I would just go overseas. There's a lot of regulations in Australia. It just makes it really hard to jump over those hurdles. It just takes so much.
And it's all altruistic here, isn't it?
Yeah.
So there's no incentive for people to donate eggs or,
There's a few good Facebook forum groups, but I feel like they became quite quickly, like you're almost selling your romance story. You're writing this, Nick and I, you're selling like a romance novel so this woman would want to donate their eggs to you. That's how I felt.
Yeah.
That's how
it's like
I felt.
Your pitch.
Yes. So I'm reading all these romance novel romances, So please, donate to me and blah, blah, blah. I just felt, I actually did write a story, but it just felt so fake and so I just didn't feel comfortable.
Yeah.
And also these women have had to have their own children already. There was just all these little things that
there's caveats.
Caveats. And then a lot of them are older. So I felt like if I was going to do this, I want young eggs. I'm sorry. I just want young eggs. Yeah. I don't want anyone over 30, 35, which a lot of the donor egg,
Right.
And they were angels. These people who donate their eggs are angels.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. But personally, I just wanted someone young. Young.
Yeah. Okay. So
I'm Google. You can Google. You can find a lot of, not to say resources, but you can find what you want there on the internet.
Yeah.
And then it's up to you to Google the companies, the countries, the organizations, because...
So this isn't even though like navigated through a fertility clinic here. So
no, this is your own.
This is literally... I just find that wild.
So you're contacting them.
I'm contacting
independently.
them, and you don't. Again, and I've heard you say so many. You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
You don't know what you don't know. You don't know the clinic. You can go by social media. Can go by recommendations. But I have also had a lot of women write me horror stories about just clinics in certain countries, just taking advantage of them.
Yeah.
And
financially, do you mean?
Financially, and even just their practices of, I'm not even going to go there. That's another topic. So let's just, move on from that one. So it's so sad that all we want are babies and we get taken advantage of.
And people are so vulnerable.
You're going to give your money because this clinic goes, I can guarantee you a baby, blah, 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 blah.
Of course.
You're going to go.
When that's
you're so broken.
Yeah.
You're so broken and, you do anything. You do anything. So I've known a lot of women who have lost a lot of money. And And they've already given up so much. They've given up their genetics. They've given up everything to go donor, and then they get taken advantage of, and it's just
awful.
So would you recommend, Jo, for anyone that's listening that might be entertaining this path or at a point where they've gone through so many rounds of IVF and this might be an option, would you recommend obviously word of mouth or, that previous experience is going to be the most reliable?
I would say speak to someone who's been to the clinic. So a lot of women have reached out, and I think I've sent and referred over, I want to say almost 20 couples there, and they've all come back pregnant.
Wow. Yeah. That's amazing.
And they're so highly regarded. I mean, you can obviously see the good ones and the bad ones, and they were highly, and in just my interaction with them, talking to the nurse, they get back to you so quickly. Everything was just so efficient, so professional. And this was the height of COVID with COVID lockdown. So I had to fly over there in the height of COVID where no one could leave the country. I had to apply to leave the country. There was only 8 of us in business class. Oh, no, I think we were the only ones in business class. There was only 8 of us in this whole flight to Malaysia.
Wow.
It was ridiculous. So, so I had to navigate.
So you didn't need a referral?
No, nothing.
Okay.
So right now I've referred ladies to, they just contact this
and
clinic. They fly over.
So it was in Singapore?
This was in Malaysia.
In Malaysia.
Yeah.
So did you have to go through like hotel quarantine?
Yes.
Were you in KL?
You'd be quarantined in a hospital in KL before we were let out.
Wow.
And then that was a challenge itself because I had to obviously get my body in sync with the donor cycle and her egg collection because I want to do a fresh transfer, which is all technical terms that many people won't understand, but I really want to do a fresh transfer, not a frozen
and thawed
transfer. A frozen and thawed. So I wanted the donor to do an egg collection, Nick do his sperm dump, get it fertilized, and then transfer. Fresh.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
They had the technology in Malaysia, which in Australia we don't have the ability to. It's called pre-genetic testing. So to test whether the embryos are normal. Yeah. So I wanted that, and the clinic IVF fertility in Malaysia had that technology in-house. So they could fertilize those eggs, choose the best ones, test them overnight, pick the best one, and I transferred on day 6. So most people transfer on day 5, so I transferred on day 6. So it's a fresh transfer.
Right. And that all happened in Malaysia. You and Nick were in Malaysia in the height of COVID.
In the height of COVID when Malaysia was had the highest
yes
rates.
Yeah. That's I remember those stats on the
we go flying to like COVID Central to have a baby. It was ridiculous, like to think back now.
How long were you there for?
I think we stayed, I want to say about 2 months. We were going to be, I think it was going to be like 6-7 weeks, but I got a bit of anxiety and I really wanted to hear the baby's heartbeat before we flew back because I had to fly back and quarantine again. So for that 2 weeks, I couldn't deal with not knowing whether there was a heartbeat there. So
yeah, you would have been in a hotel in Melbourne for 2 weeks, not knowing whether or not.
We actually flew to Adelaide to quarantine because they had better hotels there. So I had Googled that as well, like where to quarantine, because Melbourne was terrible. The hotels in Melbourne were quite terrible.
Yeah, we know that story. I just can't imagine, Jo, the constant level of anxiety, pressure, stress. I think it would be one thing to go through this process just without a global pandemic, but then add on to the fear that was being put out at that time of COVID as another stress on the body.
Yeah, the collective anxiety.
The collective anxiety. Like it's actually not a great environment for, you're supposed to be relaxed and having your body, all like.
And correct. In the IVF community, there's all these little things that you do, like, pre-acupuncture,
yes.
You do all these adjunct therapies. I couldn't have that because
it was COVID.
Was offering it. We were locked down. Couldn't even leave the little apartment they were in. So we didn't have all that.
How amazing is your body, right? Like, seriously.
Yeah.
So you left Malaysia pregnant with Charles.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh my God.
We left so happy it worked. It was just incredible. It worked. Flew back to Australia, quarantined in Adelaide, drove back from Adelaide, and I just went straight into like an ultrasound. Like I rang Lynn and I'm like, can you please do an ultrasound for me, please? I just need to hear the heartbeat.
And how many weeks were you then?
8.
Wow.
8 weeks. Miracle
Oh
of
my
miracles. Miracle of miracles. Yeah.
And then how was your pregnancy?
Thank goodness. Very uneventful. Very boring.
Great.
Yep.
Great.
Very
That's exactly.
boring.
Yeah, that's
Very
what you
boring.
want.
Well, after that journey,
Yeah.
you know,
I think I deserve that.
Yeah,
No morning
absolutely.
sickness, you know.
Yeah. You went through enough.
Yeah. Just a little bit of food aversion. That was it. Tiredness at the end, but yeah, nothing. No GD. No, nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing that they need to monitor. As an extra precaution, because I think I was 45 by that stage. So it was already a high risk IVF pregnancy plus a geriatric pregnancy.
Yeah.
Is that what they call it? A geriatric? That is just
It's geriatric from
Over
38.
Yeah, so over 38.
oh
Yeah.
gosh.
Yeah.
They just love
I
aging
know.
us.
Yeah. Yeah.
All the labels.
Yeah.
Geriatric pregnancy.
You're never a geriatric sperm donor, just a geriatric pregnant person.
Oh, of course you're not. Of course you're not.
And how was your birth?
Claire digressed very quickly because we were going to go down a rabbit hole there.
Birth was beautiful.
Amazing.
Birth was beautiful.
And you
Absolutely
had
beautiful.
Charles.
I had Charles. Yeah.
Incredible.
How did it feel to have him in your arms finally after all of that time?
It was so surreal. It was actually just surreal. It's
Yeah.
like finally.
Did it take you a while? Did it take a while to sink in after that? After those years?
Do you know what? I can't remember. It's a bit of a haze, if you want the honest answer. Like I'm thinking back.
Yeah.
I think it was a haze because then you get thrown into the whole postpartum.
Postpartum.
Yeah. Yeah.
How was your postpartum with Charles?
Again, in COVID, coming out of COVID, I did the 30-day Chinese confinement.
Amazing.
Just because of COVID, just because I didn't, it was this whole not sure what's going on with COVID, didn't want anyone visiting him. No one was allowed in hospital, which is great. I think my mum didn't even come. No one was allowed in hospital. Fantastic. Loved it.
Yeah.
So did you order meals in or did someone come and cook them for you?
My parents did come to stay, cook meals. There was a company at the time. It's changed.
That did Chinese confinement?
No, not Chinese confinement. I did it with Kiara, Chinese food.
Yeah.
That one was a delivered weekly, I think, but it was more Australian-based food, which is nice just to have that there anyway.
Yeah.
But that was the only postpartum service
Yeah. Okay.
I prepared for, I guess. In that
Okay.
terms. I had a doula,
Yeah. Amazing.
but she wasn't a postpartum doula. You know how they're postpartum doulas like the ones you have here? She wasn't quite that. She supported me through the pregnancy and the last bits of the pregnancy, but the birth, she was there more for Nick rather than for me because Nick was very medically adverse to blood.
Okay.
Right. Anything medical, really.
Okay.
So she was kind of there holding his hand, which was good.
Yeah, good for you.
Yeah,
So you could focus just solely on
I just didn't need him
yourself.
passing out on the floor.
Yeah, no. I think the hospital staff wouldn't have appreciated that either.
No.
So then you've had Charles, you've been through that journey. Now talk to us about Kiara and how the second.
I really wish, I was so well prepared. Like I was never the one that was so into the birth. I was like, the birth is going to happen. That's fine. I read all about the postpartum depletion. I was so prepared, but nothing prepares you unless you go through it. Until you go through it, nothing prepares you.
Yeah.
I read all about it. I knew all about the hormones, the baby blues, how hard it's going to be, the sleepless nights. But until I went through it, you just really can't appreciate the intensity of it.
It's another layer.
Yeah, it's another layer.
It really is.
Yeah.
So is Kiara a donor?
Yeah, so they're all related.
Right.
So there's the same batch. So
Right.
full sibling with Charles because they look identical. Like,
I know they really
are
do.
identical. They
Yeah.
could be twins.
So you
If I
didn't
put
do
them
another
both-
fresh.
No, so they had to
was
be frozen.
it
So
was
we
frozen.
had 3 normal embryos. From the batch of almost 12, we got 3 normals and they were frozen. And so I was always I always wanted a girl and a boy. I mean, that's everyone's, ideal, I guess. So I always knew I was going back for a girl, which was Kiara, because the two other embryos were girls. Yeah, the two other embryos were girls. So went back for her, and that
same process.
But I had to facilitate that by myself, and that was another layer of stress and anxiety, because I had to, do all the injections, get the medications myself. Like, you could be under a clinic, but it was still costly, and scans didn't happen at the clinic, so I had to organize scans by myself at a clinic, and I just can't ring up and go, I need a scan tomorrow. I need a scan, daily, and they are booked out for 2 weeks ahead. So I almost had to cry on the phone, hoping someone would feel sorry for me to like slip me in, because I had to get my lining, my uterus, a certain
thickness
to fly over, and I was delaying booking the flights. And so it almost didn't happen, but it did. So Kiara is a miracle of miracles on another level, because I think I had cortisol going through my veins the whole time. Just
so
stressful getting there, stressful leaving Charles and Nick, and a family drama that happened, so many things.
Oh my God.
And I actually thought she didn't take. Like, I actually thought I came back, oh my God, I went through all that and I'm not pregnant. I literally thought that. And I think she was a late implantation, because I bled and I thought this is my period, but I think it was implantation bleeding.
Okay.
And she stuck. So I just want to say, like, so many people think, what can I do? And I'm like, I don't know if the right one's going to stick, if the right baby soul is going to come to you.
Yeah.
They will.
Yeah. There has to be some level of faith, right?
And I did have the faith. Well, I actually didn't think she took, but she did. And didn't matter that my stress level was beyond, and I just cortisol running through my veins, that she took. I can categorically say I was not relaxed whatsoever that whole month.
Oh my God.
And now she's 6 months old.
Yeah, now she's 6 months old.
And you're 6 months into being a mum of two. Yeah. How's that been for you?
It's been magical. Like, seeing both of them, it's magical. And seeing Charles, just how much he just loves her so much, and just
loves being a big brother.
Anytime he can kiss her head, give her a hug, give her a toy, he does, and it's just nothing else matters. Like, you see that, it's like nothing else matters.
It's just gorgeous. So we met over Instagram.
Yes.
And I reached out to you after you had Kiara. I had been following you for a while and sort of knew very loosely of your journey, but I reached out to you when you suffered your postpartum hemorrhages after Kiara, and you didn't have one. You had a couple.
Yes.
And I just remember thinking, like, how much more can this woman actually?
Absolutely.
Like, I was just flabbergasted, and I reached out to you and I said, if you need to come and stay with us, like, you come and stay, because you need the rest. And I really was in awe of the fact that you had this journey, been through this journey, and it was just still coming for you. Like, and just, you were so raw and honest through that as well. Like, you also weren't glossing over
how hard it was.
Yeah. I mean, how was that for you? I know that was incredibly unsettling for Nick. Obviously, seeing you, that was one of his greatest fears, was losing you through birth, and then to obviously
have me bleed out in the bathroom.
Yeah,
and he actually thought, I just had my second baby. I'm going to lose Joanna, and I'm going to be a single dad. Like, he had a panic attack holding me. Bleeding out, waiting for the ambulance.
How much blood did you lose?
I think in the end it was over 2 liters.
Wow.
So significant.
Yeah. I just got like whole body goosebumps.
Yeah.
Significant.
That is significant.
Are you feeling better after that?
Yeah.
Like, obviously your postpartum would have been quite
after
different.
They got that under control, and my hemoglobin was back to normal levels, because it dropped to 6.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
That's terrifying.
I got
normally it's 120.
The second time I bled, my OB was like, okay, let's get you in. Let's do a blood test and just see how you're going. And they're like, oh, okay, 6. Yeah, how are you functioning? I'm up. I don't know.
Barely.
Yeah, it's wild. It actually is wild that you were functioning with the toddler, like.
But the postpartum, period or whatever you want to call it, like everyone just blames it as postpartum. The tiredness, the exhaustion, the mood, everything, the hormones, like everyone just blames. But there's, there could be other stuff going on.
Absolutely.
So
there's life in amongst all of that.
All of that,
And it's just exacerbated by the depletion that we feel. And there's so much going on. Like, it's not just the depletion of things, it's the increase of this and then it's the decrease of that. Like, and I think that's what people don't understand about the afterbirth is all of the fluctuations that our bodies go through, and that there's lots of it that is different for everyone. And I think that just gets bypassed, particularly by the medical field. Absolutely. And this whole, idea of postpartum's just 6 weeks. It's
magical 6 weeks. Oh,
yeah.
You're not supposed to hold your baby before 6 weeks, but 6 weeks and 1 day, you can hold your baby and go for a run or do whatever you want. Like, it's crazy magical line in the sand that you should be okay when really it's I think 2 years.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, how long did it take you to feel like yourself again after
I don't
hemorrhaging?
feel like myself again yet, because then I had Kiara. Do you know what I mean? Just if you have more children, you just never get to that stage.
It's a new version, right?
You can. Do you feel out of it, Larissa?
Yeah, well, I'm 11 years.
Yeah, 11 years postpartum.
It's just different, right?
Yeah.
Like the journey just changes, and it's postpartum doesn't look the same for everyone, but it's constantly changing, and they need you in different ways. I feel like my children need me more now at 11 and 9 than they did as little people, and it's not any more or any less, but it's different. Yeah. And I do look back at those times when they were younger, and I do think, oh God, I did miss a lot. I missed a lot because I felt like I wished it away. Like I was like, this feels like torture for me at times. So I was like, just hurry up and get older,
I was like that with Charles, but my whole perspective has changed with Kiara. Like I'm seeing her grow up so fast, and I'm really just trying to slow down my day. Savor it, because now Charles is 2 and he's like a little human that can work the iPad better than I can. And it's ridiculous. And I used to wish, I wish you can talk, tell me what's going on. I wish you can do this. I wish you can do that. And now he is, and it's like, oh no.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Too quick.
In a blink, it's gone.
Yeah. So I'm definitely slowing down for Kiara and just savoring everything with her. But it's still flying. I think with Charles, I did suffer a lot. I don't know whether it was diagnosed as PPD or I don't think I have anxiety, but maybe a touch of depression with him. Because again, first time mum, you don't know what you don't know. And it was like, the sleep thing, the feeding thing, breastfeeding was fine with me, but just the whole sleep thing.
But you also were coming off these years of this journey that was happening that was not.
And I'm going to interrupt there.
No, go.
And to share what I shared on Instagram is also then I got a lot of toxicity, because then you can't share the bad stuff because how dare you? You've got your baby in your arms. We're still in a struggle. We're still in the trenches. Like how dare you, you say you haven't slept and
absolutely be grateful for what you've got.
You're rocking your baby 24 hours a day and, having no sleep and you haven't showered, how dare you not be grateful for all the warmth on your, on you all the time and blah, 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 blah. So I had to pull back a lot in sharing what I shared, because I think I shared what I felt like a lot of people appreciated that, but then I got this whole side of the judgment that I just didn't have the mental capacity to deal with, and it's still going on. I'm just ignoring it because the haters will hate no matter what I do.
Yeah,
if I share too much, they're gonna. Yeah. If I share too little, they're gonna.
But the amount of people that you would have helped, and like you said,
I hope so.
You've referred 20 couples, to that clinic, and they've all had babies. Like,
phenomenal.
They message me and they show me the pregnancy, or they show their birth, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm so happy for you. Yeah,
incredible. Haters are always going to hate.
If you could give a piece of advice to people going through, you know, whether it's the IVF journey or the donor embryo journey, what would your one piece of advice be?
I think it's twofold. One, people going through IVF as such, with their own eggs and their own genetics, advocate. So, if it takes 2 or 3 or 4 specialists, find the right one that will listen to you and would do whatever it takes to get you pregnant. For those going through donor and you're on the fence, and sometimes I cry when I say this, don't hesitate. Like if you're on the fence and you've already done years and years of IVF with your own eggs, just if you really want to be a mum, just do the donor eggs, because I look back now and I just wish I did it sooner, because and I don't even want my own eggs, because I wouldn't have Charles and Kiara. Look at them, you haven't met Charles, but you've seen Kiara. They're both beautiful, so I wouldn't have it either way.
Yeah, they're your babies.
Babies, so I wouldn't have it any other way. So if you're on the fence, if you have a donor there ready, just do it, because you're going to the big question I get is like, will I love this baby, And I'm like, there's no way you can't carry this baby and not love it, if not more. And I said it on the podcast, you would love it more because of what you've given up and what you've sacrificed. So there's no way you're going to look at this baby and like, this is not mine. Like, it's absolutely 100% impossible. So that is my advice.
Gosh.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing your story with us.
My pleasure.
I just think, giving a voice to all of these different ways of becoming a mother are just so important, so important. So thank you so much for sharing your experience and your journey.
It's my pleasure.
This podcast represents the opinions of our hosts and their guest speakers. Views and opinions expressed in the podcast are our own and do not represent that of our places of work. This podcast is for informational purposes only, and content here should not be taken as medical or professional advice. Please consult your healthcare professional for any personal recommendations and medical care. While we make every effort to ensure that the information we are sharing is accurate based on the best available information at the time of recording, we welcome any comments, suggestions or feedback via our website contact form, home.com.au/contact. Names and details of personal experiences may have been changed to allow for anonymity and privacy. To join the conversation, join us on social media at Home Postpartum.